Hey everybody, welcome back to my review of the RG Aile Strike Gundam. In this second part I'm going to start off by doing the poseability, and then I'm going to get into the weapons and accessories before I give my final thoughts on the kit. If you missed the first part, there's a little link in the annotations here, but beyond that, let's start off here by showing just what kind of cool poses we can get with this guy. So, starting off with the head, you can rotate it 360 no problem. The joint on this does seem to be up a little bit higher than on some other 1/144 scale kits. I don't know if that's standard for the real grade or if it's just the design of the Strike, because the Strike's head never came down that far on the back anyways. You can also get the sort of chicken bob thing going there. So you can bend the neck up about that far, or actually further if you really want to, and can get him to look down a little bit. Obviously his chin's going to hit the collar there, but you can do some decent posing there. The arms can go up pretty high, and the shoulders are going to bump into his head there, but you can get it to get, pretty well flush there, and if you want, you could, kind of have him pose all the way over there. It'd be really cool if, with this real grade, they give you, like, a miniature version of the Grand Slam that they give you with the perfect grade, because you could have it, like, hanging down behind him, but obviously that's not the case with this version. You can get the shoulders and arm to rotate 360 no problem, can get the arms to bend basically 180, and this little bit along the arm here on the bottom moves to accommodate for the bend with the arm, which is pretty cool that they have that. It's also got some more color variety, like I mentioned in the first part, where this is more of a gray, this is more of a white. But the shoulders themselves, you can, flip up and down, wiggle around as you see fit. And there's a little flap here on top of the in the blue there, kind of like what they have in the Master Grade, where if it, gets too far out of the range of your liking, you can put it back into place there. Now as for the torso, you can get it to go back and forth no problem, side to side just fine. You can only rotate it so much, and that's because of how high the back skirt pieces come up here. The back skirts do wiggle around decent enough, and they will, if you really want to, you can flip them up like that, but they will sort of bend in because of this, vent piece on the top there, and it did happen to pop out of the back, but it goes back in just easy enough. The side skirts don't really do that much on their own. You can spin them around, but the thing is, this whole skirt piece that runs through the torso that holds the two side skirts in does more to move around by itself than the actual side skirts do, which is kind of interesting in terms of design. The front skirts, you can flip up no problem, can wiggle them around more than you can the other skirts. Then the legs, with the skirt armor up, you can get them to go up about that high, can get them to go back about that far, and if you bend it up, he can sort of come around and kick himself in the head. Not quite, but it gets pretty close. You can also get them to bend at the knee, almost perfectly flush 180 there, which is pretty cool. And again, you'll see that the sort of knee and the thigh bend there to adjust. Then the ankle armor will, wiggle around, go up and down, whatever. The feet will go back and forth, and again, kind of like the head, do that sort of bob and weave motion there. And then the toe can actually go down more than it can go up, which is interesting. It can get some cool aerial poses that way. And there's actually a double joint here in the toe piece, which is a little unusual, but I kind of like it. It does a lot for, making it look more dynamic in its poses. Arguably among the more curious weapons in the Strike Gundam's arsenal are the Armor Schneider knives, and you do get a pair of those with this version as you do with the Master Grade. And you can see on his side skirts there's a little panel that has a tab towards the top, but I find it's easier to just push into the bottom and pop it open that way, and you can fold up the Armor Schneiders and slide them in there. When you do get them out of the box, though, they aren't in a shiny silver color. They're kind of just this flat, dull color, and I went ahead and just painted up the blades. I didn't paint really anything else on this kit, but those blades I did go ahead and paint up, and then I think they look a little bit better because of that. The way that they do bend around the handle, because everything's so small, they are prone to breaking a little bit easier there, so that's one thing you want to keep in mind with these weapons. You might not be able to tell all that well simply because of how small it is, but there is in fact a hole on the inside of the hand there, and a lot of times with the Master Grades what they'll do is they'll put a peg in the hand and a hole on the weapons. This time they've done it the opposite way, and I think it's actually smarter given the size of the kit. On the rifle here, you might notice that there is a tiny little peg sticking out of the back handle, and it's a little tricky to get out simply because when you go to start swinging it out and try and grab onto it, a lot of times it just pushes back in. But it will swing in either direction, so you can have him hold the rifle in whichever hand you prefer. Once you've got it in his hand to hold onto it just fine, you can shake him around there and it won't come out, which is really nice. For the beam sabers, you do have two sets of handles. This first set, much like the rifle, has a little peg there that'll stick into his hand, and then the second set is the same sort of thing, but without the handle on there. And the thing with these beam sabers is that to swap them out, you actually take the cap piece and the beam saber off of one and slap it on the other one. So the one without the handles you could display on the Aile Striker pack without having, you know, a weird peg sticking out, but the other ones don't look terribly different. Just the fact that you have that peg on them. And then you also have a small pilot figure in 1/144 scale of Kira, and he's got his little helmet next to him. I said before that I don't really do much with these figures on the Master Grades, and I don't know what I'm going to do with this 1/144 scale one, because I don't paint the Master Grade ones because they're really small, and that one's even smaller. But it's included there if you want it. As for the shield, have some really nice color and detailing here. And on the back side, we have a little ball joint socket and a hinge here. And then you can rotate that around however you want. The handle here is also able to go up and down, so you can adjust his arm and his hands to that as you see fit. And this peg will just go right into the back of his arm. One of the coolest features with these real grade kits is that the fingers do bend at the knuckle, and so you can get a little bit more dynamic posing with the hands and greater ease of access when you're going to swap out the different weapons and accessories. You do have a spare set of hands, though, that are sort of these just static closed fists, and they are on a little bit of an angle, which is interesting. So you could do sort of an uppercut punch if you wanted to, or have them pointed towards the hips a little bit more. Much like with the actual Strike Gundam itself, you have some nice color variation here on the Aile Striker pack. You have more of a true red here, a very dark gray / black there, and then sort of a burgundy color here on these thrusters, as well as a lighter gray on the sort of tailpiece here. You have, again, that burgundy color on the back of this booster, and the tri-split yellow piece there on the side as a vent. I did have to go in and like panel line that a little bit with one of my fine tip Gundam markers, but beyond that, it does pretty well. The top just popped off there. That doesn't usually happen to me, but this bit on the bottom here, where it connects to the backpack, much like with the Master Grade, has a little bit of a hinge, so you have some give and take there when you're going to attach it to the kit. You don't feel like you have to jab it in there. You can sort of lightly set that on top. The wings go up and down quite a ways, so you have a lot of options there. The booster packs, or the little thrusters on the bottom rather, swing around no problem, can kind of go in and out, so you can have it, you know, sort of splayed back like that. And I do like the fact that instead of these just being straight wings, there's some little sort of nubs that pop up and gives it some more detail there. Finally, like a lot of newer kits, you do get a unique piece to stick on top of an action base if you want to display him like that, and they'll go right into his crotch. And once you've got him up on an action base, the Aile Strike Gundam looks alright. I'd say one of the weirdest points about this kit, though, in terms of displaying him, is this part here at the waist, where it's more open and loose to allow for greater posability with the torso back and forth, but because it doesn't spin side to side that much, I don't really see the point all that much to it. And it just looks weird when he's up on the base like that, and you can see, you know, through his waist there, off to the side skirt. It's kind of odd to look at. As far as the Aile Striker pack goes, though, it looks decent on his back. Like I said, I do like the way that the extra details look on this thing. And, you know, with his toes pointed back, he looks like he's doing more of a dash-type pose. I could probably have made a better pose than this, but it just kind of gets the idea across. One of the biggest things for me when I go into buying a kit, building it, and then reviewing it is the matter of quality versus quantity. And that's one of, I think, the biggest hits against the Real Grade Strike, as well as the rest of the Real Grade line, at least as far as I've seen of them, is that you're paying a lot more than you would for a high grade, obviously, because you have more posability and more detail on the kit itself. but you have usually about the same amount of weapons and accessories. Now, for some of the other real grades, that's all fine and dandy. With this one, I don't feel like the Master Grade's that much more expensive to really justify such a distinct difference in the price range here. And the fact that you don't get the Sword Strike pack or the Launcher Strike pack, that those are separate and cost almost as much as the actual Aile Strike Gundam itself, seems a little bit of a ripoff to me. Now, I'm not saying that I think this is a bad kit by any means. I think that it's a really interesting version of the Strike Gundam, and I am glad that they went with this more detailed design that really reminds me of the Evolved version. I think it's really cool to look at. But it really didn't win me over with the Real Grade line as much as I thought it would. I was really kind of hoping for something revolutionary and different, and while I think there's a lot of time that goes into making these Real Grade kits, I think there's also the matter of, cost and turning a buck around for Bandai, because they don't release these kits nearly as frequently as the high grades or master grades. High grades, you get multiples each month. Master grades, you're going to get at least one a month, if not, two with a recolor of something. With the real grades, you're getting them every few months. Anywhere between like 3 to 6 months that these things are spaced apart. And they become more frequent since the original ones came out. But I don't feel like there's enough reason for me to kind of make this a regular thing for me to collect. And while I've mentioned a number of times that the Strike Gundam is my favorite lead Gundam design out of any of the Gundams in the Metaverse, the thing is that I just don't like the Aile Striker pack that much. It's kind of boring to me. It's sort of the vanilla flavor pack of the bunch. And yeah, it gets used a lot in the anime, but the Sword Strike pack and Launcher Strike pack are way cooler. And every time they make a new version of the Strike, the Aile Strike one's the first one out the door. And then you have to either wait a while for the Sword Strike Launcher Strike version, which they did with the Master Grades, or you have to pay extra for the, upgrade kit like you did with both the Perfect Grade and this Real Grade here. And to me that seems just kind of, I don't know, dumb. I'd rather they give you the option right off the bat and allow you to pick which version you want. I'm fine with them charging, say, 500 yen more for the version with the Sword Strike pack and Launcher Strike pack, but I'm not okay with them charging almost the same price for this Gundam as they do for the Strike pack and Launcher pack as a separate thing. And so while my feelings toward this kit are not overwhelmingly negative, they're not overwhelmingly positive either. I think that if I were to get some more kits from this line, the Zeta would be the first one that I'd get next, and then maybe I'd stick around for, the Unicorn Real Grade if they ever make that, and the 00 Ryza Real Grade, which I think we'll see sometime after the Exia Real Grade comes out. But for me, it's just really not cost efficient to buy more Real Grades at the same rate that I do Master Grades or, bought High Grades in the past. So it's not that I dislike this kit per se, it's just that I dislike the marketing formula and the planning with the whole Real Grade line overall. Now, as I mentioned, they don't come out as frequently as other kits, but for me, it's just not something that I think I'm going to stick with. I'm not at all upset that I got the Real Grade Strike Gundam as my first Real Grade kit, and probably one of the only ones I'll get, because I really do like the Strike design that much, but as I mentioned before, I just wish there was more to it, and there are a few tweaks here and there, like the design of the torso that I'm not real hot on. So that's pretty much it for my review of the Real Grade Strike Gundam, and with that, I will see you guys next time.